Okay. Gareth, do you want to do a test on?
You're all good.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah,
We've just got the one microphone between us.
That's why I'm very close.
Hi everybody, thanks very much for coming along today and hearing our talk about PR. My name is Katrina Suppiah. I live and work locally, but I also have an office up in London. My company is called Publicité. I've got about 20 years PR experience, mainly working for big PR agencies in London, but 11 years ago set up Publicité on my own. Just decided I wanted to have a go at doing my own thing. It's been going very well for the last 11 years. I work with a range of companies, small businesses, but also large international organisations, supporting them with their media relations campaigns. When I was asked to, I'm a Board and Hub member, and when I was asked to present on PR, I work very closely with Lisa, who also will explain her background, but I thought actually coming together we'd probably be able to give really quite a nice talk about, you know, what really PR can do for your business. So I'll hand over to Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Henshaw, and I have been doing public relations for over 20 years as well. I have only been on my own for, well, nearly 4 years now, so quite a while, and actually been working with Katrina as part of that, as a fellow freelancer for most of that time. So thank you very much for having me along as well. So just a little bit about my background. I started my career in the Silicon Valley in California, working in tech startups and sort of playing the Silicon Valley game in the late 90s, early 2000s. When I moved to London in 2001, I continued working with tech companies, a variety of sizes, but also expanded and worked with professional service organizations, business-to-business companies, as well as charities and social enterprises. And that sort of fueled my desire to go it alone, as it were, and start my own company, Parker Robinson Communications. So today, really, Janet, you've set us up brilliantly because you've already given some examples of PR, and we're just going to talk about how PR can help your business and what that means.
So what we are going to cover today, we're going to talk about what PR is, because I think there's a lot of myths, and a lot of people actually still don't really understand and know what PR is. When we meet with people and we explain to them, they don't really completely understand what it involves. Identifying and reaching your audiences, because that's at the crux of what PR really is and what we can do for you. What makes a story? Because journalists, particularly today, are they're not easy to target. They're not easy to reach out to, and you have to have a really good story. And a lot of that is identifying the right messages. So it's helping organisations to find the right messages about themselves, their organisations, and how they're going to reach out to them with those stories. Then what PR content is, that ties in very nicely with what your story is, and then the different types of tactics that we'll employ to help you reach out to those target audiences. Okay, so PR, we all remember AbFab and just how fab it was. And when you say to people, we work in PR, oh, so you're out drinking champagne all day, having swanky, expensive lunches. I think the answer is to that, we wish. Sadly not. No, we're not out drinking champagne all day. Sorry to dispel that myth. No, it's actually really hard work. It's 24/7. You're always at it. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning doing a big launch for a client. Got them in City AM this morning, and you're just constantly on it, basically.
Wait, oh, sorry, I was just going to say a little bit more about PR and what it is. So not the AbFab, not quite the glamour, but really it's about helping organizations to raise their profiles. So we work with clients to help define what their stories are and their unique messages to convey to their audiences, so your customers, your partners, all with the idea of letting people know what you do and who you are and why they should be working with you. So there is an element of schmoozing involved. We do sometimes meet journalists for lunches, although 9 times out of 10 they're too busy to leave their desks. And it's more than just journalists, it's more than just media. PR encompasses a lot of different channels and outlets, which we'll talk a little bit more, but really it's about building your reputation as a business.
And how we do that is we really have to get to the heart of our clients' businesses. We can't just take a brief from someone today and say, oh, that's fine, no problems, we'll get you into the Telegraph tomorrow. We have to really sit down with them, really get into the heart of their businesses. Often it involves going in and sitting with our clients and being with them and meeting everyone in the team and staying in their offices day in, day out to really get to know the various people within that organisation, so that then we can help them to find out what those messages are. And if they've actually got other spokespeople within the business that we can go out to different media with, as an example.
And so it's really about being the eyes and the ears of our clients, and part of that is getting to the right people. So for a campaign to be effective, it needs to be reaching the right people. So it's all about the audiences. As I mentioned, it's your customers, who you may be partnering with, anyone who can help tell your business's story and who you want to be providing products or services to. So just to get an idea, I know everyone's introduced themselves, but it would be useful to hear from some of you who your audiences are. Who are your customers? Who are you trying to reach? Does anyone want to be brave and...
You'd be an obvious great one every time.
Middle-aged women is probably my core market.
Okay.
I'd like to think I can reach slightly younger ones, like festivals and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it is probably
Okay.
that sort of...
Yeah.
My focus is on longevity, so I help people who want to stay healthier for longer.
Okay.
So that's a real mix. You could be going out to any audience in that, in that vein, younger guys to, middle-aged women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Got multiple in that with the wellbeing group. On one hand, we're connecting with practitioners, so people who are involved in wellbeing to come and actually provide services.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, we're trying to convince the community to come to the events and experience the wellbeing. And we take it in a very wide circle, so we're talking about from a games area where people can do puzzles and chess and things like that to combat social isolation. So we have lots of tick lists that I know that are current in various budgets in other places. So there's social isolation and well-being and mental health and skills and life skills and empowerment. So we know our tick boxes, so we're searching for audiences that are known to be part of those sort of tick boxes, really.
Excellent. That's really good. Anyone else?
I guess you'd be very B2B, very much so.
Yeah.
Tech possibly as well. Yeah.
I mean, all of these examples, some of them overlap. Some of you are targeting similar people, but some are more business orientated, some are more consumer, some are a mix of both. But what it kind of goes to show is that every business has a different combination of audiences. And really what PR is about is getting to the bottom of how to get their attention, how to get them to come to your events, to engage with your programs, to buy a product from you or a service. And really what we do is sit down with companies, big or small, and understand who their audiences are, but also look at what makes them tick and what about your organization can help make their lives better. So is it saving them money? Is it making their job easier? Is it helping them to live longer or to get involved in the community or meet new people, etc.? All of these elements are kind of essential to raising your profile and getting to those right people, finding those hooks that are going to interest the people that you want to reach out to.
And we do that looking at various different channels. So it might be that we reach out to, we don't specifically, but there will be PR people that go out to beauty magazines and beauty bloggers, right through to B2B, where they're talking to tech publications. But also, so it's really finding creative ways to reach those media, be it radio or a B2C type magazine or the business section of the Financial Times.
So yeah, there's various channels, both press and social media channels as well. I don't know if any of you were here for Colin's talk from the Herald the other week, but not to emphasize a point he made, it's really local press can be a brilliant way, one of the ways to reach your audiences, especially if you're a local business. It can help generate customers and awareness. It can help people get to events that you're having, etc. So there's local press like the Herald. There's also Hampshire Life. There's also radio opportunities, and for the right opportunities, there's local telly as well. Obviously, that's a more complex offering, but there's opportunities there. Beyond that, there are so many different ways to reach different audiences. So as Kat was saying, it's kind of looking at who they are and where they're getting their information from. So in addition to local publications, there's also trades. So there's magazines, there's blogs, there's forums all about nutrition and well-being and about charity and community. And there's also business-to-business publications like The Manufacturer, and anything that you might be doing, catering to manufacturing, to HR, to accountancy, has its own, whether it's a print publication, an online one, or a blog or a forum. There are ways to get involved with that and to have your voice heard in that community, which then helps to elevate your expertise and your reputation as a business, which then serves to raise your profile.
And that PR content can also feed really nicely into social media channels. So for example, if you've written a great blog about the need for HR in a small business or whatever, you could then turn that content that was in the HR publication into a nice blog that appears on your website that you use in relevant social media channels. So you post it out through LinkedIn or you do a tweet on it. And then going to more consumer audiences, maybe there's relevant Facebooks that you could be Facebook groups that you could be targeting, or perhaps there's really powerful images via Instagram for your products, as an example, which I'm sure that's something you're probably looking at. So what we're trying to do, working with the client all along, is thinking about these right channels, how they can target those audiences via those channels. But what we really try and do from the outset of meeting with that client or being with our client is we really think about what their key messages are. They have to have really salient messages that they're using constantly, that they're the same messages that are being used in that blog, that are going out to the journalist, that the journalist is hopefully translating into the copy that turns into press coverage. And once they've got that press coverage, they can then retweet that press coverage, post that up onto their website, let everyone know, let your competitors know, let your customers know, we're great because the press are writing about us.
And those messages are really designed to resonate with all these audiences. So getting them across and people hearing them. So reinforcing what makes you unique, what your story is, and how you can help them.
Okay, so what makes a story?
So this section, again, this is an area that I know Colin spoke about a little bit, but we wanted to delve into a little more deeply. Basically, with the hooks and the messages, you then need a story to get to the outlet. You need something that's going to grab the audience. And so we've brought a few examples in to illustrate. Now, this is, generally speaking, if you're a business in a local area, just being a business and selling to customers isn't really going to light anyone's world on fire. It might be you might be very passionate about what you do, but you need to have something that grabs the attention of either who you're working with or what you're doing. So an example in Alton Herald from this week. I mean, I'm not suggesting that every pub go out and get a defibrillator, but for example, a local pub did get approved to have a defibrillator on their premises. That in of itself is a story. They're working to help with the health and well-being of the community. They're providing a service. I'm not saying they did it to get press coverage, but a story like that or something different that you're doing doesn't have to be totally related to your business, but something that you're doing can really help get the attention of local media or readers or followers, etc.
And local press love local stories. There's no point going to them unless it's a really, really local angle.
Absolutely. This is another example. I talked about trade press a little earlier. Amongst trade press, there are also a lot of publications that are targeted towards SMEs, so small businesses. And what they can do for your business is give you a voice in that community. So even if you're not selling directly to small businesses, you can foster relationships and develop partnerships, etc. And Real Business is one of the publications we work with that gives a voice to small businesses, provides advice to organizations. And I didn't print out this whole article, and it's not beautiful because I just printed it out, but totally as an example, which actually fits in with staff motivation and things we were talking about earlier. There's an article on that Real Business did, which is a collection of comments and examples from small businesses on how to motivate your staff. So one of the bits they covered was, you can't really see it, but there's a picture here of a very funky office space with large giraffes and sort of a jungle theme. And Moneypenny, who some of you might know, they're an answering service for small businesses. They've done this to help motivate their team. Small businesses can't always pay as high a salary, but there's also perks for working for them. So this is an example of what they've done to sort of attract people and make their employees happy. There's comments throughout the article from other organizations about flexi working, about some of the community initiatives they're doing. But the point is that it's an article that's given a lot of businesses an opportunity to say what they're doing to other small businesses and share best practices, which again helps raise your profile and really instill trust in your brand. So that's a really useful element that you can do with the right kind of media and the right kind of story.
Another technique for reaching out to media, if your business doesn't have, or maybe if it might be a dry period, if you don't have great things to be talking about within your business in terms of not lots of news coming through or new initiatives, something else that works very, very well is to profile the people behind the business. So the founders, Emma would be great for doing profiles locally, or even small business examples. So, to reach out to small business press nationally. So it might be small business editors on nationals, which we've talked about, or small business press to talk about the great initiative that's happening here in Borden, because there might be other similar things happening throughout the country, or people who have got a similar idea that could. So it's great for raising your profile, but doing it behind the people behind the business. So it might be that you're trying to go for investment, or maybe an IPO at some point later on down the line, and really raising the profile of the people behind the business. So we do a lot of work getting clients profiled in places like the Sunday Times and the Telegraph. Because it's a great place to be seen, and when you feature somewhere like that, you're always going to have someone somewhere down the line that's read that and say, wow, I saw you featured in such and such a publication.
And even if you don't have the most exciting founder story, or there's nothing that sort of you think makes your company stand out, the way you do business or your views on things can really make a difference. So I know, Russell, that you make a point of working with a lot of local companies and organizations. You employ trades, or not employ, but you work with trades to put together kitchens, bedrooms, etc. And that you're a local business who prioritizes working with the best local businesses around. So you're strengthening the community from that respect. So there's stories there, and sometimes they're not as obvious when you're living and breathing everyday life. But sometimes when we work with companies and we sort of find nuggets that they can talk about, and that gives it differentiates them from the competition.
Do you work with, so if I wanted to go and get community funding, and like I said, demonstrate that we are doing these tick boxes that get funding, would a brief be that I would hire you to say, right, we need to get this funding, can you draw out everything about us and pull out my associate practitioners and stuff and make mini stories for them? Would you be able to provide a whole package to that?
Yeah.
We're just about to go on talk about that
Yeah.
as a tactic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to that in just a second. One other thing in the vein of sharing those stories and the content around it is things in the news also offer opportunity. If you have strong views or you have examples of things, you can comment. So Brexit's actually people are a bit bored with, but we did a campaign last year on GDPR, which I'm sure you know about GDPR. A lot of you might know about the data privacy laws that came into effect last year. And we work for a company called Calm, who's a meditation app, which some of you might know. And they have very little to do with GDPR except obviously best practices, but they're not a voice in that industry. But what they did is there was a lot of noise about GDPR. They decided, as part of their app has this section called sleep stories, which are basically narrations that you can listen to help you fall asleep. So one of these sleep stories they did was having a really monotonous person read the GDPR law to help you fall asleep. And they launched that. They launched that on the day that the GDPR went into law last April. And basically we had a press release that we just used as a vehicle to talk to journalists, and the national journalists picked it up because for them it was a fun way to talk about GDPR. Everyone had heard all the other arguments for and against and how to deal with it. So this was a really nice way.
And it got hundreds of pieces of
Yeah, we have an example later. Yeah.
Literally everyone wanted to write about it. It's good.
I've got that app, but funny enough,
Oh, well, there you go. It's probably, it should still be there.
I might listen to that tonight.
It'll bore you to tears, but it'll send you off to sleep.
Right, so talking about the different types of method for how you can share your stories. It might be that you've appointed somebody new and amazing into your business and you want to announce that perhaps locally or in the business press, but there are other methods that you can adopt as well. So maybe you've got a case study of somebody who used to have really frizzy hair until they bought your rain hat, and now that's a thing of the past, and that'd be great to put into the women's consumer press, because that's helping everybody, it's giving some kind of good example about what's happening. Or it might be that you've got really strong thoughts about an issue, maybe it is GDPR or data or whatever, and you could do a nice opinion article or feature article on that we could place in the business press. I mean, I did something with Rebecca a while ago. I saw an opportunity for an HR commentator, so I just pinged it over to Rebecca and she created a really nice response to it, and actually you ended up getting quite a nice feature piece in smallbusiness.co.uk, which is really widely read across the UK. And it's also other mechanics, such as we enter award entries for our clients, and where you get an award win, that's fab. So one of our clients last year won the Queen's Award for Enterprise. Huge. We got a lot of PR off the back of that. All of their executives put it on their LinkedIn posts, so it really supported their sales team, because winning an award like that, or the National Business Awards, or a relevant trade award, is just very, very good profiling. Or we might have a client speaking at an industry conference on a theme, and what we'll do is invite journalists along to listen to them speaking about that theme and try and generate interviews off the back of it. And then, as we talked about earlier on, it's about feeding it into your media channels, social media channels as well.
And one story can produce 2, 3, multiple pieces of content. So you can have a case study that perhaps has been created as part of one exercise, but then it can also be used to form a script for a video that you might have on your website or on your YouTube channel, or sharing on Facebook, for example. A strong opinion, as Kat said, can be pitched and used as an opinion article with the media, but it can also serve as a blog that you can share via your channels, put on your website. So it's really about looking at the content which feeds into the stories, which then can be used in multiple ways. So you're getting the most value. You're getting the most value out of a story that you can, all about raising awareness of your company, developing trust in your brand, and attracting people to work with you.
So we've just pulled up just a few examples of some of the pieces of coverage that Lisa and I have either achieved across clients that we work on together or independently. And so that first one, so profiling.
The National Theatre piece is actually, this is a good example of it hinging on, so this was written for International Women's Day. So another way you can do things is take specific weeks that happen in the news. I think today, you've got Volunteering Week coming up.
That's why we're doing the event that week.
Yeah.
You get on the back of the
Exactly. So that's a really... Yeah, exactly. You're doing it already. You're living it and breathing it. But the National Theatre has part of their learning organisation is called a service called Theatre Works, where they send actors and directors into businesses to help them with presentation skills and rapport and impact and using voice and things. And they decided, I worked with them to help pinpoint. They were getting some workshops with more women than men, and they saw a very different dynamic, and so as a result decided to launch a women's only opportunity. Not that they don't work with men, they absolutely do, but this was around getting women in a room to feel more comfortable with each other and work on different elements. And so this article was the result of an interview with Dee Dee, one of their trainers, and launching on International Women's Day this opportunity for businesses to have women's only training around presentation skills and rapport. And some of the issues they discussed were around things like voice and control and things like that, which are some women had expressed they felt less comfortable about in a room full of men. So that's just using that as a point, International Women's Day, and using that as a way. They used that on their website, and as a collateral, they sent it out as email as well. And this GDPR is the story that we mentioned earlier. So that was literally, we had a nice graphic. Com provided us with a great graphic as well, which really helped. But yeah, that the Telegraph picked it up, a lot of nationals and local media as well, all over the UK.
Pictures are massively important as well, really, really important when pitching out to the press. Always don't attach a picture into an email to a journalist, they can't stand it, but always give them like a Dropbox link or a lower res image. We just wanted to show different examples of different types of media that we get into. So here's a regional Manchester business, but it's big in Manchester, and this is, we're really trying to profile this lady in that region specifically, but also them nationally, and they run marketing across the UK, great organisation. So that's just showing sort of profile building in that region. This is a technology, a trade and technology piece. So this is where two technologies have come together. This is a hospitality magazine, and again, a great visual, but that gets them that nice piece of coverage in their hospitality trade magazine where they want to be seen. This one on the left is a company called aspect.co.uk, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of or used. They're sort of Pimlico Plumber's biggest rival, but they have a weekly piece in the Telegraph property section. It's a Q&A, and some weeks he has a really, really big feature, other weeks he has a smaller sort of 300, 250 word type piece, but he's in there every week. They want to reach consumers who need property, home renovations, so that's really good placement.
And it's really good to convey their expertise, so people trust them and say, oh, I've seen you there, I want to work with you.
Yeah, you're obviously not dodgy builders if you're in the Telegraph every week. And then this is a private jet company that run an annual survey, the 10 most beautiful airport landings. We issue it every year. It's global, working with PR agencies in the States and Germany and France and Australia, and we always get huge amounts of exposure for it because every year it's a different airport, and it's voted by, it's a survey, it's a global survey that they're surveying people, as I say, across the world as to what they think their most beautiful airport landing is, and it's always a different one. And then we work very closely with the airport and the tourist authority to do loads of online PR locally to help build, if the company's Private Fly, their brand. But surveys are another massive tactic. Journalists love survey results. So that's it, really. Just to hope that's given you a bit of a flavour about what PR is and isn't, and it's not all media relations. But I think for me, well, for both of us, what we'll always say is press coverage is great and it's a brilliant end result, but you can't get it until you've got really good media relations. So you need to let journalists know that they can completely trust you. You're a really reliable source. If you say you're going to do something, you will do it. You won't let them down because they'll go to your competitor if you're not that trusted, reliable source. So press coverage is the result of fantastic media relations. So, you know, in my mind, PR is about really great media relations.
And also what you do with the press coverage as well. It's great to be in a publication, but unless you share it out and use all your other channels to do so, then not everyone might see it. So it's getting that coverage, getting the story, but also spreading that out to reach as many people in your audiences as you can.
Thank you.